everybody, it's Pat Love from eXp Realty. I'm here today with the wonderful Shauna Baty. She's a writer and author that I've just sort of recently connected with through a secret project. We'll call it a secret project. Hi, Shauna.
Hi, Pat.
Welcome today.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to sharing this interview with people because I just recently read Shauna's book, Weed Your Garden, and I was blown away by it. There you go. She's holding it up. So you can recognize it.
My special effects.
There you go. I've already recommended it to two of my friends and I only read it a couple days ago. So it's great. So let's get started. So my first question, and I wrote them all down like I would remember them, but I'm just going to quickly refer to my notes. Okay. When did you first realize you wanted to be a writer/author?
Oh, well, writing has kind of always been hovering in the background. Although I have to admit, I didn't start out in life even thinking that direction. But I started off writing short stories, just for myself, just whatever it was, therapy or just fun or fantasy or whatever. And as I got more comfortable with it, it was actually a friend of mine, Cara Fullerton, who said, Shauna, you need to keep writing, just keep writing. Because she was my fan at the time, my only fan at the time. And so I kind of got into that and I continued writing. And with my marketing background, I actually started doing a lot of technical writing. So I did wonderful things like business plans, marketing plans, policy and procedure manuals. I worked in the franchise world for a long time. So very technical based, a lot of research based, which might put some people asleep at night. But the creative side of me kept sort of creeping up. And it wasn't until my 9-year-old son, well, he's 17 now, but at the time 9-year-old, came to me with this story about how in grade 5 he was going to break up with his girlfriend. It was pretty serious stuff. So and of course back then they had phones and they're texting, and he just one day he just said, I don't like you anymore. I don't want to be your boyfriend. So I went into full-on mom mode, right? You can't do that. She's a girl. She has feelings. She's going to be crushed. Like all these mom things kept coming out, and he was staring at me. I'm sure I went on for about 20 minutes and he's staring at me like, yeah, I still don't like her. So I sat down and I wrote that story. Of course, I embellished a few areas for creativity, but nonetheless, that story itself, and I put it aside. Didn't think much of it. I didn't have a blog at the time, so it was just my way of sort of a very interesting relationship that I thought, I could bring up at his wedding someday when he's older. Uh-huh. And so, but it started to percolate. And then I had somebody else read the story and they're like, this could be more than one story. So I thought, I'm going to write a whole bunch of stories like this. But what I ended up doing, which is now the present day Weed Your Garden book, is talking about friendships and relationships. And I don't think there's enough of us talking about friendships, to be honest. And the real catalyst to that, as it was percolating, was I was separated. And then I thought, well, I'll still have all my friends and all that. Nope, everybody just ghosted Shauna. So that was a big catalyst to go, oh, what does this mean? Because it was new ground for me. And they went in the direction with my other half. So it just became something that was like, I need an answer to this. And that's when I started the research. So many books, even though, they're a lot of the personal side, uh-huh. You've got to do a lot of the research to understand at a more global level. Uh-huh. I mean, I even quote Aristotle in there, who was one of the first writers about friendship, oddly enough. Who knew that, right? scientist,
figure.
philosopher. Here we are. He's writing about friendships. So nothing new, just repackaged, for the 2020s, right? So that really that was the general path to me getting my book really in print.
Okay, so you've actually answered question 1 and 2, because I was going to ask you, where did you get your inspiration for Weed Your Garden, but you kind of already answered that. I would like to say something about Weed Your Garden. It was really, there was stuff in it that I probably knew. Let's say we knew, but I had this one relationship, my very best friend from high school. I'm still, up until I read your book, maybe still sitting there thinking, I mourn the loss of that friendship that's been gone for about 25 years of my life, because when we were friends all through our 20s, I thought, we used to talk about what we'll be like when we're in our 60s and 70s and 80s. We used to talk about what we'd be like. And, then your book sort of gave me permission to say, let go of that. And it's sad that I sit there and think about, the loss of that. I mourned that relationship for a very long time. And then I read your book and I went, oh, well, maybe that's the natural order of things.
It seems to be, if you live long enough to be my age, you'll notice friendships do come and go.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've told all my friends that you don't have friends for life. You have, but I could not, with that one friendship, I could not apply that, because this girl, her birthday was the day before mine. Like, we were 2 peas in a pod. And I think that's what was so hard about it, was because we were everything was so similar about us. But anyway, but I thank you for that. And there was lots of stuff, a few quotes from one of my favorite books when I talk about men. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Because there's some classic. Everybody, even though that book is ancient, every woman, you won't ask a man to read it because they would never read a book like that, but every woman, you can learn so much.
And reread it.
Yeah, because it will make so much sense. Anyway, I'm supposed to be promoting Shauna here, not John. Is his name John Gray? Anyway, so I think you answered the third question too. When did you write your first book?
Well, actually, I'm just going to answer one question. That's all I've got time for.
I'm realizing it. I'm realizing it as I'm looking at my list. I'm going, oh no, I think she answered that. So we can breeze by that. We can go briefly share how one goes about getting published.
Okay. Well, there's 2 ways to publish. There's either self-publishing or traditional publishing. I chose the route of self-publishing because I didn't have grandiose ideas that I would retire a multimillionaire. On the book, I still am going to retire a multimillionaire, but maybe not just from one simple book.
Oh, did you buy your ticket for tonight?
Yeah, I'm on my way after this.
Okay.
So, where were we going about this? Oh yeah, so self-publishing is an interesting process in and of itself, and a lot of people choose that route because it is cost-effective, relatively simple, but if you don't know what you're doing, it becomes very difficult.
Oh, okay.
So I've actually book coached some people through the process as well. And as a quick note of Facebook, I belong to a lot of self-publishing groups, and we help each other out. Like, oh yeah, we can talk about something like an ISBN number. Well, what is it? And there's differences between the US and Canada, for instance. Canada, it's through the federal government, and ISBN numbers are free. In the United States, you have to pay for them. So just some subtle differences. Yeah. And so, you still need a team though. I'll say that you can't be good at everything. I consider myself a writer, not a book formatter or designer or an artist of any sort in terms of graphics. So I hired a couple people to help me get through the process. And uploading to Amazon, I'll say this right now, it's not as easy as you think. It just is not.
It's not the get rich quick scheme that one thinks.
No, everyone thinks, so once I get it uploaded to Amazon, which is a difficult process anyway, you'll instantly create fame. Well, you know what? You don't. The most interesting thing I think that's come out of Amazon for me is I did have somebody buy my book in Japan, which is like, oh, that's kind of cool. I'm now a global author instantly.
Well, I agree with you. I think a lot of business owners back in the day thought, well, if I have a website, I will get business. And they don't understand no one finds their website unless you tell them where to go. And so I think that that's the truth of many things, especially since the invention of the internet. Everybody thinks it's easy, but it's not. There's still work to be done, just different type of work. So,
well, I read the other day a stat that there's something like 600 billion posts on social media a day in the world. Like it's just mind blowing. And you think you're going to be, the one that makes that post is going to change your world. It isn't. It's all about consistency. But as is writing, it's consistent. It's consistently getting yourself up every day. My book took better part of 3 years, although I wasn't working it every day either. But and then I only published it last year. I will say this, the pandemic did me a favor. As we were forced home, I actually finished my book. So,
well, there you go.
The only missing denominator for me was time, and the universe gave me that time. So I used it to my full advantage.
Well, that's good, because most people found that when the universe gave them time, they found out that it wasn't time that was stopping them from doing the things they were supposed to. That's what most people found out. Yeah. So I'm happy it worked out for you. So next question, can you please share what you're working on now?
No, it's very tough. I'm working for the CIA. No. So as a ghostwriter, which I do professionally, I'm a content writer, technical writer, ghostwriter. We're kind of not seen. We're kind of like this, right? And
more special effects.
Got to do it. So I work with a company called Park Bench, which you're obviously intimately related to. That's why we're here. And I've had the pleasure to work with you, Pat, in crafting your story for a new book that's going to be coming out in the fall of this year on becoming a local leader. And we have a lot to, boast about, and you folks be proud about. You're doing an awesome job despite the pandemic and all those other reasons people can give. So I'm happy, very excited to be part of this project.
Yeah, I'm glad you are too. I'm super excited and very happy with Shauna's made me look very good so far. So I'm excited to see it all come together. So moving on from the CIA secretive, were we allowed to talk about that or not? I didn't know. Anyway, what do you do for fun when you're not writing?
Oh my goodness. I've been blessed with living in Calgary, Alberta, which is just adjacent to the Rocky Mountains. And so every minute that I can get, I'm either on a kayak or I'm hiking. Those are my two first loves. And if I'm not there, I'm probably reading or taking my dog for a walk or something of the sort. And I do a lot of education, self-education. I love programs like Skillshare, Udemy, platforms that I can learn something very quickly from people who've been there before me. So I actually even have a course of my own on there. So unrelated to writing, but so I just, a thirst, a hunger for learning. Definitely.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm much like that myself. So is there anything else you'd like to share today?
Yeah, I get asked this a lot, primarily on Facebook, advice for, self-publishing or in particular writing. You'll get a post like, I want to write a book, where do I start? It's maybe a little bit general of a question, but I people say, well, is it too late for me to write something? And I say, unless you're dead, it's not too late to start writing. And write whatever is in your heart, like what's on your mind. My blog is quite a bit of departure of my writing, but it's really my place to just sort of vent. I have a rant and raves on my blog, so I either rant about something or I rave about it. So
it's very therapeutic, I suspect.
It's so therapeutic. It's so therapeutic. And the other thing I think to keep in mind before you start writing is, what are your goals for your writing? Is it just simply between you and a pen and a piece of paper and it'll never go anywhere? That's a good goal. Or is it getting, a published book out there and a series of books and everything in between? Books help elevate people's careers. And, if you're seen as an author, you've run the marathon. You've been through it. And so people naturally affiliate to that. And so there's merit to that as well. And, we often see lots of entertainers that love to, oh, I wrote this book. Well, I can tell you they got a ghostwriter and paid a hefty fee for them. But regardless, it's like something else to do, right? I'll just write a book. So, but anyway, so yeah, those are just some things I wanted people to realize, that we all have a bit of writer in us somewhere. And just
we all have a story, right? We have a story. And I think when I got approached to do this, I thought, yawn about my story, because you don't think that there's most people don't think there's anything special about them. There is, of course, that group that thinks there's lots special about them, but we do all have a story. And yes. I think sometimes when we don't think we do, I had a friend say to me once, I was giving her some advice, and she said, I'm not as driven as you. And I'm looking at her going, I've never really thought of myself. That would have never been my tagline. I thought, well, is that how other people see me? Well, that's a great compliment. But we don't see ourselves the way the world sees us. And so sometimes when you're feeling down, or you don't think you have a story or you're important, you should ask your friends, because sometimes they'll tell you the truth and you won't want to hear it, but sometimes they'll tell you the truth and it's something nice. So,
well, they have a different lens. They have a different lens on you. So
yeah, yes. We're very self-critical. So I'm going to wind this up now and thank Shauna very much for one thing, coming into my life. I'm so happy that you're part of it now. And for sharing your story and giving me the opportunity to tell more people about it.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me into your space today. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks, Shauna.
Thanks, Pat.